And welcome to another episode of Experts Speak. I'm Michael DeLon. Today, I am here talking with Miriam Gunn. And Miriam, thank you for being my guest and spending some time with me today.
Oh, I'm excited. This is going to be a fun conversation.
It really is. It really is. So, Miriam she's a transformational coach for entrepreneurs with a twist. And we're going to get into that twist and what that is in just a minute. But before we get there, Miriam, tell us, how in the world did you get to doing what you do today?
Sure. I appreciate the question. So I'm the firstborn kid of a family of four, and firstborn kids have a tendency to be kind of type A and, go for things and leadership and stuff like that. I went to school to become a veterinarian, and somewhere in the context of those 4 years, I made the decision that people were where I wanted to put my emphasis. And at that point, I got involved with an intercollegiate mentoring ministry program. And I did that for 25 years. And in the context of that, I helped a lot of students get therapy. And at some point, I said, hey, what if I just got this degree? So I became a marriage and family therapist and did that for quite a while. And in the context of that, I found out that I really like working with entrepreneurs. And I had gotten some coaching that was really useful in my life. And I made the decision to go back and get certified as a coach for life. And then I did another certification for business. And so my position is I want to help you win in business and in life, because those two things are really intertwined. They're sort of inextricably woven together. So that's in a couple sentences.
I like it. I love it. Win in business and in life. So I was having this conversation with our community group from church this week, and I was telling them about our business. We've been 11 years in our business, and I said, most time when you start a business, they say, "Hey, congratulations, Miriam! You now can only have to work half days. You get to choose the 12 hours that you work."
Yeah.
And we all laugh. And so I told my community group, I said, I bucked against that system from the word go. And I looked at all the big shots that were out there. And what I found, the common themes were they'd all been married 3 times and they'd all gone bankrupt twice. And I
Yeah.
said, if that's the formula for success, count me out. So
Yeah.
I made my own way, and I said, I'm not working more than 40 hours a week. If I'm working more than 40 hours a week, I'm doing something wrong in my business.
Yeah.
And so that's been my theory, because my family is more important than my business.
Yeah.
And so I love how you put together winning business and life together. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So let's dive into that. And what do you see as you've worked with entrepreneurs? What are the struggles they're having that you can help them with? What's going on in their lives and their world?
Sure. I feel like entrepreneurs are a unique brand of human, which is why I really enjoy working with them. They are quite positive, usually.
Yeah.
Usually they're incredibly optimistic. They have large vision. They aren't always grounded in reality, and they don't necessarily know their limitations, but as a whole, they're just a fun group of people. And so some of the things that I see them struggling with are knowing their limitations, knowing when they need to hire someone. A person I follow says, that your first hire needs to either be an assistant or a salesperson, and I tend to agree with that based on what I've seen with people. It depends on the kind of business and what it is you're trying to accomplish, but at some point you become your own bottleneck, and unless you get some help in there in some form, and it doesn't have to be an assistant. I mean, sometimes hiring somebody to clean the house or to like provide food frees up time and space to do these other things.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, it comes down to, at a really fundamental level, what are you truly a genius at? What is your genius or superpower? Spend your time doing that and hire out to do the other things. That's probably one of the number one spaces I see with entrepreneurs.
I love that. I love that. And you don't know this about me. My audience does, but I'm going to tell you now. Miriam, I'm only good at 4 things. In life, I'm good at 4 things. I am wicked good at these 4 things. Outside of that, I am mediocre at best. And so I've learned that lesson, to hire people, to equip people to do all that other stuff so that I can be right here doing what I'm best at. That is such great wisdom, Miriam, because business owners do try to wear all these hats. And at first you kind of have to,
Sure.
but you need to make that decision to hire somebody. And I remember hiring my first person. My knees are knocking. I'm like, can I make it? Can I pay them? Can I? Every time I hire the right person and train them properly, my income goes up.
Yeah.
We make
Yeah.
more money.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah. And I think that a lot of people get stuck in all or nothing thinking, where it's like, I have to hire somebody. I was talking to somebody who's like, well, I don't want to hire them because I don't know if I can support them for 3, 4, 5 years and whatever. And I don't want to have to let them go. And I want to be able to give. And I'm like, well, A, nobody says you have to hire someone full time
Right.
initially to get the help. You can hire someone for 10 hours a week. And B, how about if we deal with this year, today, this 6 months, this 8 months, rather than projecting ahead as to what 5 years? I mean, if you went backwards 5 years, you would never have believed that you could be where you are now, currently, present day. So I don't think that we can project forward 5 years and say, oh, well, I'm not going to be able to afford this. Let's just not even go there.
That's right. That's right. So a lot of our barriers, most of our barriers are mental. By far.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, true, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I was talking with someone earlier today whose barriers truly were financial, but those barriers were caused by some mental barriers. It all comes back to the little cages and boxes we put ourselves in, and the things we tell ourselves we can do and the things we say we can't. That's part of the reason why I think I'm a little bit unique in the business world as a therapist, because I can sort of see some of those spaces. And earlier today, someone made a pretty black and white statement of, this is how business is. And I said, well, I want to push back on you a little bit on that,
Mhm.
because I don't know that that is actually accurate. That's just your perception.
That's right. Yeah. And we all fight that perception in our brain, right? Because we see the world one way. And that's
Yeah.
why it's important to get up and have other people, coaches, come into our lives who see the world maybe differently, a different perspective, or as Stephen Covey would say, a different paradigm of
Yes.
seeing the exact same situation, to go, have you ever thought of this? Huh. No, I hadn't. Let's talk about that, right? That's fascinating. So entrepreneurs are a driven breed, usually, right?
Yeah.
And how do you help them understand that balance between business and life? Because a lot of times there's almost a brick wall or a steel door that they're trying to navigate, and they try to separate it. I've tried to just integrate it and realize it's just who I am. I try to be the same person everywhere I go. How do you help business owners deal with that business life conundrum?
I have really found that each person is individual. I have not yet found something where I can say, oh, it's this way
Hmm.
exactly for this group of people. But what I have seen in terms of some commonalities, I have seen some people, as you mentioned, the people who go through 2, 3, 4 marriages. I really try and get people before that's the case. And I'll ask questions, what are you doing for your spouse? What kind of boundaries are you putting on this? What is your spouse doing while you're doing all of this stuff? Where's the integration? How are your children handling your stress, et cetera? And having really open conversations and not letting them stay separate. I mean, sometimes people really want to talk about their families, and they'll say, well, I know you really want to talk about business, but I want to talk about my families. And I'm like, no, I don't want to talk about business. I want to talk about what's holding you back.
Yeah.
So sometimes it is a matter of having the actual conversation that people aren't used to having. Sometimes it is, what kind of boundaries need to be put in place.
Hmm.
Sometimes, and this is an interesting thing that I have seen with a couple people now, they're so used to being driving, and a lot of times this comes from their family background, some issue with mom or dad or whatever. There wasn't enough money, or there wasn't enough unconditional regard, things like that, that create this really driven person. Then they start hiring people and getting systems in place and making it so they don't have to be driven, and they feel a little bit lost. They
Yeah.
feel like What am I doing? Am I doing anything? Their business is making more money than they've ever made, but they're a little lost because they're used to that feeling of panic and overwhelm and stress. Now that they've put the proper systems in place that they don't have to feel that anymore. And it takes a little bit of time to reset that internal thermostat. And I'll caution them and say, if you're not careful, you'll take on a new project or you'll take on something crazy, some big piece of equipment or some huge vacation or expense, or you'll buy a boat or you'll do something stupid that will help you feel that sense of terrible doom again. Even though they don't want to feel it, they will do something unconsciously that will help them feel it. And then they'll feel stressed all over again, but also they'll feel kind of normal. And so when people get the right systems and the right people in place and they're feeling that anxiety of, wow, I'm not busy enough. I feel off. I'll kind of coach them through that space and say, give your system time to
Mhm.
let this become the new normal, because this is what you told me you wanted. You
Yeah.
wanted to stop work at 6. You wanted to be home and play on the weekends. We're getting there. We're getting to where you want, but you're not used to how it feels.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I wrote down here the empty nest syndrome for business owners, because in life you got empty nest, and so many times the mom, in most cases, the kids leave and she's like, "Who am I? I
Yeah.
don't know what to do," because
Yeah.
she has all this free time. She doesn't have the schedules, and that's kind of what you were explaining for a business owner who gets there, and honestly, I mean, I'm there in a lot of times because my business is growing and we got systems, and I'll find myself sometimes with 2 or 3 hours of nothing to do during the day to go, I've got to be doing something. Well, I'm realizing something is taking a nap or taking a walk and thinking or being with my family, and that's okay.
It's totally okay.
But it's a
And
paradigm.
it is a paradigm shift. And I think that at some level, business owners intuitively understand their job is to steer the ship, but often they're running around like they're doing everything, or they've hired more people and now they're still doing lots and lots and lots and lots. And there isn't that open space to create, what is my next thing? What is my next product? What is my next initiative? There's too much like freneticness to get that space quiet that they can even think and dream and vision.
Yeah.
So
Well,
anyway, those are some of the problems I
thinking,
see.
dreaming, and visioning is not productive. It doesn't feel productive, right? I've got a chair right over here. I call it my timeout chair.
Ah, nice.
And I put myself in timeout to go sit and look in a corner with a notepad to think about a question. And I'm there for about 40, 45 minutes thinking and just quiet,
Good
writing
for
it, right?
you.
It takes time to get there because
Yeah,
it feels unproductive.
absolutely. Absolutely. There is a level of maturity that you have to get to understand that the next level, I mean, there's that book out there, What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And
Yeah.
it actually is talking about different things. It's talking about non-productive habits that get in your way of your next level. But the idea holds true that whatever it is that got you to this level of success is not the same skill set that's going to get you to the next level of
Right.
success. And that discipline to sit. And I remember I was talking to somebody about this actually last week. I can remember taking some time and sitting in a chair like you're talking about, and there's just all this chatter in your head and all this like this and that and whatever. And I usually have paper so that I can capture some of that. But if you wait it out long enough, inside it gets so quiet. Just like a lake with no ripples.
Yeah.
The ripples stop and then you can hear stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's one of my favorite places. I don't get there nearly enough, but you have to have the right systems and people to afford yourself that time, or you carve that time out and just say, no, I'm going to do it for 30 minutes twice a month, twice a week. Okay, great. Or whatever it is. But you're right. It takes time I took a sabbatical one time. I was in ministry for 10 years and hit a sabbatical time for a month. And it took 2 weeks to get to that point of, and
Yeah.
it was the best second 2 weeks of my life because it was amazing. Because I finally got to that point of everything was crystal clear, everything was peaceful, everything was calm. And in business, you can do that if you have somebody like Miriam who's coaching you, who's helping, who's dialoguing. Business owners, we're entrepreneurs. We don't have many people in our life that we can talk with transparently and say, this is really what I'm thinking about doing. Or can I show
Yeah.
up this way? And we need
Yeah.
somebody like you, right?
Yeah, you bring up an interesting point. I have talked with quite a few of my entrepreneurial people, and they would say, on one level, they don't know how to interact with quote unquote normal people. Non-entrepreneurs do not get it. And
Oh.
so, if they try and share a thought or an idea or a feeling with someone who's not in the creation space, they get kind of blank stares. But there is a lot of hesitancy to share with their entrepreneurial friends, depending on what it is. I mean, if it's a huge idea, awesome, share it and people get all excited. But you're kind of nervous to share it because what if somebody steals it? Or what if they poo poo it and they don't like it and now you're feeling depressed? And that's just about maybe the business product idea. That isn't about what's happening inside your heart and soul. And people say, I'm the CEO, I'm the one who's supposed to have the answers, but I'm struggling. And they're nervous to have that conversation with someone because what are they going to think? Are they going to think I'm this or that or not? Or, all of those weird fears get in. And I do think there's a need and a place for people who are creating and building things and leading things to have someone they can talk to that's safe, but who gets it.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, it's really interesting because we're having this conversation. So I just we're in a week 4 of a 5-week coaching program that I'm running for some business owners to help them come up with a crystal clear message.
Mm-hmm.
These are seasoned entrepreneurs, and 2 of them
Yeah.
told me, "Hey, I've been running my business for 30 years. I've had 7 different messages. I don't know what to say."
Yeah.
And in 4 weeks, we crystallize every one of them because it takes
Yeah.
an outside perspective. But what they brought to the table, Miriam, was humility enough to go, I know that I don't know and I need help. And that's why I'm in the group. I'm like,
Yeah.
I am so glad you're here because now I can
Yeah.
help you, right? We need to get there
Exactly.
and just get rid of all of that. But we need somebody who's safe to talk with, and we need those outside counselors. So I'm a marketing guy, right? And that's where I've cut my teeth and what I help business owners do. But I've got 3 marketing coaches for my business because I am too close to my business to make good
Yeah.
decisions. And so
Yes.
that's what business owners need. They need somebody like Miriam to look in, to talk and say, here's what I'm going through. What do you think? And the cool thing is you work with entrepreneurs in different industries, so you can cross-pollinate really easily that a business owner
Yeah.
just can't, right?
Yeah, earlier today I was talking with someone and I said, "Hey, give me your card because I know someone who could maybe utilize your services." Yeah, you're right. The cross-pollination is awesome. And people don't understand how can you coach different industries? People want to pigeonhole me in an industry and it's like because the issue lies within the entrepreneur. And if you
Absolutely.
understand people and you understand thinking and limitations, then it's just a matter of asking the right question to help them unlock what's their next step to take them to the next place.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And normally to get to that next level, it really is it's a step. You find the right person, you have the right conversation, and something clicks, and you're like, that's it. And you
That's
take a
it.
step, and pretty soon you're looking back on, wow, we are growing, and I've got more time. And how'd that happen? Well, comes back many times to that one. Somebody wrote a book years ago called Tipping Point, and it was just that
Yes.
point in time that everything changes, and we have those throughout life, but they normally don't come in isolation unless you've got a
Right.
timeout chair. And then,
Yeah.
but they really come with people like Miriam who are building that relationship. And I think that's one thing that people don't really understand about a good coaching relationship is it's not a program. It's not a online thing. It's a I gotta know who you are. That's why I love the background of being a therapist. You understand at a deeper level how people think, how they're wired. And when they say something, your little antenna goes up and say, can I push back there? Can we talk about that? And that many
Yeah.
times is that tipping point. Is that what you found?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so interesting to me. A lot of times, I think people who are interested in self-development and growing are like this, whether they're entrepreneurs or not. But there is this here, I've got my pad of paper, I've got my pen. Okay, download the answer to me. And here I'm going to skim through this book and I'm going to write down the 5 tips and I'm just going to figure it out and I'm going to muscle it through. And what I don't think people realize sometimes that tipping point is a question that gets inside you and it sits there and it rumbles and
Mm,
it doesn't have an answer. It just has to rumble and go around and around until there is this moment of insight.
yeah.
And when that happens, that moment of insight becomes an interesting line in the sand or on the blackboard, and you start to see your life as before that insight and after that insight.
Mm,
And all, roads from that space look a little bit different than the roads before it. That's a place that is magical when
yeah.
you can ask that question and that person gets quiet and then they go, whoa, I've never
Mm,
thought about this before.
yeah.
That gets me excited.
Isn't that cool? That gives me goosebumps.
Mhm.
I love those moments, and yeah, anyway, we'll talk about all kinds of things. But it's having that. I tell people all the time, stop listening to yourself and start preaching to yourself, because we
Mhm.
all have that voice inside of our head, and usually it's Eeyore, right? Oh, you're no good. Oh, woe is doom, and we're all doing wrong. No, 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 no. Stop it. Have somebody else reprogram your brain, have somebody else speaking into you and go, no, you're really okay. You're pretty close. You're on the precipice of greatness here, but you've got some limiting things. Let's help you break through that to find that moment of insight to go, oh, that's it. And when,
That's
yeah,
it.
you're right. When that happens, I mean, it's like the heavens break loose and it's like, oh, it doesn't happen all the time, but when it happens, it's there. And I've got those moments in my life throughout my life, and I just go back to them and go, yeah, this is so cool.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and I would guess when you trace your life back to those moments, it was a course trajectory. Once you had that
Oh,
insight, you shifted something, and that something that you shifted changed the course of your life and your
totally,
business.
totally.
And those are the things that I think you can't necessarily just find reading a book. You need the push and pull of the conversation with someone to create space to ask the question and then to keep you from answering it too quickly. One of the things that I was talking about with another coach, they were talking about how they create an agreement with someone. Hey, before we do coaching, let's just have an agreement here that this is not a two-way conversation. This is, I'm going to ask you a question, and you're not going to give me just the first answer that comes to your mind. You're going to let it sit and percolate into that deeper space within you, and then you're going to respond. And I thought, oh, that's something that I have not thought about before. Because sometimes people think, well, hey, we're in a conversation, we got to respond right away, right? And
Right.
their heart starts beating because they don't have an answer
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes the answer is, I don't have an answer, and that's
That's right.
okay.
And that's okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
And those changes, um, I heard somebody talk a long time about an airplane leaving New York, flying to like San Diego.
Yeah,
If it's off by 1 degree at the beginning, it ends up in like, Seattle or something crazy like that. And
absolutely.
it's what you're talking about, helping as you help business owners find that moment of insight, or find that thing that's going to change their life. What I have found is most of the time it really is a 1 degree change today.
Yes.
5 years down the road, I am totally different. Is that
Yeah. Yes. And I think that sometimes maybe they trivialize that this is a small thing, but I'm pretty sure it was Mother Teresa who said the small things are the big things.
they really are?
And, I was listening to a podcast 2 days ago where the guy was saying he struggled with a ton of anxiety, and the interviewer, or I think it was a guest actually, said, well, what did you eat for breakfast today? And the interviewer said, he paused and he said, well, a cookie. And the guest said, well, that might be part of your problem. I guarantee if you eat an actual breakfast with protein in it and, blah, blah, you're going to reduce your anxiety by 50%, which I thought actually is really true. That's a very small thing. Instead of eating a cookie for breakfast, eat something healthy. And a lot of people go, yeah, blah, blah, I already know that. And I would always say to people, especially in my therapy days when I was doing marriage counseling, and they were like, yeah, we read the book, we know. It's like, no, it doesn't matter if you know, are you actually doing it?
Yeah.
It does not matter what you know, it matters what you're doing. And so, for these entrepreneurs who are burning the candle at both ends, what are you doing about taking care of your health? Are you moving? Are you getting good nutrition? Are you making efforts to end the day at a reasonable time? Things that seem small, they're those 1 degree that, make the difference between San Diego and Seattle.
That's right. That is so true. And it's I just wrote, it's about being, not doing, right? I can know, but I have to own that content in order to be a different person before I go do that thing. Otherwise, it's just, yeah, whatever, or I'm going to try to do it in my might, and that's going to fail. But you, and that's where the conversations that you have and the questions that Miriam is going to ask you are going to be penetrating, but they're going to be good, and they're going to make you stop and think.
Yeah.
Remember my timeout chair? I think in that chair. We need questions to make us think, because that's where we're going to find the right answers that are going to help us break through to that next level, so that we can find that aha moment, that moment of insight that you're struggling to find right now. If that's you, let me encourage you to reach out to Miriam, because she can help you find it in a great conversation. How would they do that, Miriam? Where do they find you?
Well, I have a website, leavebetter.com. My company is named Leave Better because I want you to come and then leave better. And then when you're better, I want you to leave everything around you better too. So the idea is that growth isn't for growth's sake or to make more money or to get the second boat or whatever. Growth is so that we can make a real and lasting difference in our world. So leavebetter.com. My name, Miriam, Miriam at leavebetter.com. I have an Instagram and a couple other things, and you can find those in the show notes.
Awesome. Miriam, this has been transformative. This has been really fun. I like it. I like what you do. I like how you approach it. And I love how you're helping people win in business and in life, and to leave better everything around them. That is really cool. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
Thanks for being my guest today.
My pleasure.